upon a time there was truth in journalism, where brave men and women gave voice to the voiceless. But then the corporations bought the journalist, poisoning the news that we are fed. With those tainted sources, all we ever ate was a steady diet of status quo. This hijacked narrative hid the truth of mass suffering, injustice and corruption throughout our land. Status quo, status quo, status quo, status quo. To expose this shift to oligarchy came a band of honest journalists. They left the studio and hit the streets to give the microphone back to the people. From sea to sea, the people were empowered to share their truth. Their voices no longer stifled, reclaimed their power. Join the media revolution now.
Hello, Jordan Sheridan, back to my roots at my parents' kitchen here on Strong Island, Long Island, New York. I know the lighting's not good. I know. I'll have some announcements to make in just a few minutes. But it's the best I could do at my parents' house because one of their lights, I realized, was out. But hopefully you could hear me. Hopefully you could see me. As I always say, if you're looking for 60 minutes and that kind of production value, well, I don't know what to tell you. But I'm here in the flesh at my parents' house. I actually will be broadcasting from my parents' house for the next 2 months and maybe a week. Don't want to get so into personal details, but I will be moving in with my lady, who might be watching. Love you lots. So before I move in with my lady, I wanted to save a couple bucks. You know, I have put a lot of my money into Status Coup, so the opportunity to go to Larry and Lori, mommy and daddy's house, save a couple bucks before moving in with my lady was good. Too good to pass up. So going to be doing that till February. On Thursday, I have a tech person coming to set up my green screen and lights, so I could set up a mini studio here. As much as I love, coming to you from my parents' kitchen, we want to attract new viewers, so they might be like, "Who's this bum from a kitchen?" I actually think it has some charm. But this is actually where I started broadcasting when I was at the Young Turks. Oh, look, Mama Coup is here. Ma, can you spell Coup correct? Can you spell Coup correct? That would be COUP. Thank you very much. But thank you for the free rent and warm meals, of course. So, probably by next week, definitely, I'll have the green screen, the graphic, and you won't even know the difference. But for today, tomorrow, Wednesday, you got to deal with the lighting. But same aggressive, progressive broadcasting. So there you go. All right. Want to remind you, I need every one of you, press that like button. It's the thumbs up button right under the video. The more people that press like, the more people that will see this poorly lit live stream. We got 160 of you watching right now. 109 have pressed the like button. So can we get 160 likes? Pretty, please. We are also at 737 Status Coup members. Got a goal for the end of the year of 1,000. So a lot of work to do, but we could get there. I hope we're going to get some signups today. Jen and I are going to have our members call. We said tomorrow, but we forgot. It's the debate. Tomorrow is the debate. So Thursday we will have our monthly members call. So if you're a Status Coup member for as low as $5 to $10 a month, you'll get the link to the video call. You know the drill. You know how it works. It's through Zoom. We have a good time Thursday night, and it will be the day after the debate. So we'll be able to talk about the debate and some other things going on with Status Coup. A lot of exciting things going on behind the scenes that only our members will know. Jen is doing some family stuff, so if somebody can help me out with the links today, that would be wonderful. Here is the join link for membership. Makes a big difference. Also, follow us at Status Coup on the Twitter. We're live on Periscope. Subscribe to our podcast. That's Status Coup Podcast, and join our email list. That's very, very important. Go to statuscoup.com and enter your email there. Colin, if you're watching, we gotta tweak this checklist because we also have to add join the text alert. Text Coup to 474747. Mama Dukes. I'll explain it to you later if you don't understand. But for those of you digitally savvy people, text COUP to 474747. And this helps us grow our text system. We're not going to text you 17 times a day. I don't even know if we're going to text every day. But we want to start sending out texts for some live streams. Definitely live streams when we're in the field. Super, super important. So that we could get around the YouTube suppression. Because I'm sure you all know it's 50-50 if you're going to get a notification when we're live. And it's also 50-50 if you're going to get a notification. If you get a notification, it might be a half hour after we're live, 2 hours after we're live. So the text system is great because it allows us to communicate with you outside of YouTube, and hopefully we'll grow our audience and get around that suppression. So that's the deal. We are also live on Twitch, so make sure you follow us at Twitch. We are at 9 viewers strong on Twitch. So hello to my peeps over there. Hello to my peeps over there. We definitely want you to follow us on Twitch. There's the link because, if one day we are kicked off YouTube, we need to make sure we're strong elsewhere so that we seamlessly could broadcast elsewhere. So even if you're not on Twitch, sign up, follow us at Twitch. Makes a big difference. And lastly, if you're so kind, super chat. So let us know. Send in the money. So eventually I will not be going live from my parents' kitchen. I know it's not in the headline, but I got to start with a story that, with this impeachment brouhaha, is probably not going to get any coverage at all. Shockingly, the Keystone Pipeline spill was 10 times bigger than reported. And this isn't a surprise. Almost every one of these oil pipelines that spill, you get the same public relations spin at first, where, oh yeah, no, it didn't go in any water bodies, didn't really affect anything. Luckily, it was just a small spill over. We're dealing with it, and everybody could go back to their lives while we continue destroying the planet. Only 2 to 3 weeks after every spill, it comes out that, it was much, much bigger than previously reported. And the Keystone spill, for those of you watching at home, has affected nearly 10 times more land in eastern North Dakota than first thought. Carl Rockman, North Dakota's Division of Water Quality Director, said the leak is estimated to have impacted 4.8 acres or almost 219,000 square feet of land. The AP earlier estimates pegged the extent of affected land at 22,500. I would say 209,000 is a little bit bigger than 22,000. And by the way, for those of you saying, well, Jordan, it takes time to figure out how long. Yes, how widespread the spill was. It doesn't take 3 weeks, okay? Most of these state-level regulators and emergency responders know how big it is early on. The problem is the regulators are bought off by the fossil fuel companies, so they try to minimize how bad and how widespread the spill is, just like as Status Coup has broken with, environmental departments that test your water for lead and copper are gaming the system to produce lowered lead levels. And then voila, you find out, they threw out some high tests. They flushed before taking the test, flushed the water before. So it's the same thing with these state oil and pipeline regulators, they deliberately, time after time, this isn't the first time, report initially, oh, it's small, only like couple, like 10, 15,000 gallons are spilled. And then like a few weeks later, they're forced, because it's so obvious and the damage is, landowners are complaining, residents are complaining, they have to say, oh, it affected 10 times more land in the case of Keystone pipeline spill. Rockerman said earlier estimates were based on visual information, and further inspection has produced a more accurate understanding. Sure. TC Energy, they renamed themselves. It's actually TransCanada, who's the original owner of Keystone Pipeline. They renamed themselves TC Energy so that people would kind of lose sight of who they were. They said the volume of oil release has not changed as the company obtained a more accurate assessment. Of course, no change at all. The cause of this spill, which began October 29th and sent about 383,000 gallons of oil into the land, is still unknown. It's unknown. It's unknown why oil pipelines spill. Maybe because they're all built in haste. Maybe because humans are imperfect and building these pipelines, you have a large volume of oil trafficking through. You have weather conditions could damage pipelines. You have the earth moving can damage pipelines. You have extreme weather that could damage pipelines. Why do these pipelines leak? We don't know. And by the way, this 383 gallons that spilled, this is in the Keystone pipeline, okay? Not the proposed, which they're already starting construction of, not the Keystone XL pipeline. So we already have the original Keystone spilled 383,000 gallons. They're intentionally diminishing the spill right out of the gate, but construction of the Keystone XL, which is the extension, goes on. Meanwhile, the biggest thing covered in the news is Ukraine. And I don't want to pretend that the hearings that are on all day aren't important. Trump obviously lied. Trump obviously bribed. But can we cover more than one thing at once? Oh, no, we can't cover it because CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times, the Washington Post, all of these outlets, either directly, CNN, MSNBC, have commercials from fossil fuel companies. I saw a commercial on CNN from the energy company that owns the Dakota Access Pipeline. Was one hell of a propaganda commercial if I've ever seen. Or indirectly, the New York Times, their largest investor is Carlos Slim from Mexico. You know who Carlos Slim is? In addition to a telecom giant, owns a lot of natural gas in Mexico. We can't really pay attention to the destruction of planet Earth, to the destruction of the water, 383,000 gallons falling out, the destruction of land, the air, with oil going out into the air. It's disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. And it's unbelievable to me, and, whatever, this is from the Hill. We just take the oil companies' word for it. Last week, TC Energy announced the pipeline returned to service after the U.S. Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration approved the repair and restart plan. As part of the cleanup, TC Energy is moving contaminated soil that reached up to 6 feet deep to a landfill in Sawyer. Oh, great, we're going to move the contaminated soil to a landfill in Sawyer. So you're basically, and they do this with all sorts of things, including uranium and nuclear waste, you're going to move it to a community that has to breathe that in, that landfill, which, as I reported when I was at the Young Turks, there's landfills all over the country that are not properly sealed. In the St. Louis area, in Massachusetts, I reported on. So the environmental destruction, and essentially the U.S. government, and it's not just Trump. This was before Trump. They basically just rubber stamped this stuff. It's appalling. Appalling. And we got 250 people watching. Only 183 of you have pressed that like button. So I need a lot more of you to smash that like button. Also, press the share button. Share it on your social media if you can. This is a super chat, so if you're feeling any love for Status Coup today, let us know. So, I'll stay on this. There are pipeline fighters in North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, Nebraska that are fighting like hell to stop Keystone XL. We definitely want to go out there soon. We were supposed to go out there, but the story Jen and I are working on that if you become a Status Coup member for the call Thursday, you might get a little bit more information on that top secret story that we just submitted a first draft for the other day to the outlet we're writing it for. If you become a member, statuscoup.com/join, we look forward to speaking with you. We can't give it away, but we'll talk a little bit about what we can talk about at the members call, 7:30 Eastern, Thursday night, 4:30 Pacific. Be there or be square. So, moving on. And we got 13 now watching on Twitch. So keep it going. Follow us on Twitch and all those good things. Oh, Elizabeth Warren. She just wants to be, the crusader against corruption. But what she's really doing, as I've reported, Status Quo has reported for months, is she's basically delegating the corruption to her assistants and her staff and her top-level finance people. You do the dirty work of dealing with the donors, so I could say I'm clean, but make sure we get their money. This is basically what Elizabeth Warren is doing. I hate to give credit to Politico, but where it is warranted, I will. Inside Warren's secret big donor fan club. Elizabeth Warren prohibits special access for big donors, but her campaign treasurer, who, by the way, her campaign treasurer was once called what was he called? A walking Pac-Man. Because of his fundraising prowess for super PACs. Her campaign treasurer and another close ally are organizing wealthy supporters for Warren behind the scenes while she rips on the rich. The pair, Paul Eagerman, who's wealthy, and activist Shanti Fry, have maintained campaign titles as Warren's finance co-chairs, even as her campaign shared other links to Democratic donor class earlier this year, foreshadowing closed-door, in-person fundraising events of the sort Warren did for years in the Senate. Fry and Eagerman, a longtime friend of Warren's who helped build support for her first run for office, are courting big donors in the Northeast by organizing trips, hosting events, and acting as conduits for information about the campaign. Eagerman and Fry recently planned excursions, to Warren's 20,000-person rally in New York City and to the Iowa Democratic Party's Liberty and Justice celebration in the first caucus state. According to people familiar with the trips, Fry solicits donations from supporters as well, one Boston friend said. Their presence on Warren's unorthodox campaign shows how the Massachusetts senator, whose campaign is funded primarily by small-dollar online donors and who rails against the corrosive influence of political donors and Wall Street billionaires, even selling a campaign mug labeled Billionaire Tears, is not completely blowing up her ties to the Democratic establishment. Well, that's one way of writing it, Politico. And the wealthy supporters Eagerman and Fry are organizing today may have another act to play in Warren's campaign. If she became the nominee, those donors may help finance the National Democratic Party, which can collect six-figure sums, and which Warren has said she would raise money for, if chosen as the nominee, or help super PACs that would support Warren against President Trump. And their efforts highlight how some wealthy donors, especially progressives in her Boston base, have continued to embrace Warren, undaunted by the calls for a wealth tax and Medicare for all that have recently prompted furious criticisms. I'm going to skip down and get to what I think is the most important point. Warren's campaign declined to answer questions from Politico about whether the campaign has paid for any travel for Eagerman or Fry or for the donors on trips that the finance co-chairs have organized to early voting states and other Warren events. Well, silence is often the answer, folks. Silence is often the answer. So I don't even know where to begin. Let's begin with what we already knew. Obviously, the New York Times, several weeks ago, when was this from? This was from August, actually. They reported that Elizabeth Warren herself was going around the country and having hot tea with a who's who of the Democratic Party establishment to basically curry favor. I think possibly because she might think, and her team might think, we might be looking at a potential brokered convention, and it might go to the second ballot where superdelegates vote. So Warren's team has been trying to court those bigwigs of the Democratic Party establishment, and as they said in this article, she is in phone calls, text messages, and small gatherings before her rallies, as well as in one-on-one meetings over hot tea at her Washington condominium. Miss Warren is simultaneously courting and assuring Democratic town leaders, statewide officials, and the chiefs of the country's largest unions. So, Elizabeth Warren, essentially, from the reporting in Politico, the New York Times, and now we see her moonwalking on Medicare for All. Let's be very clear. This transition that she came out with, which I reported on last week, it's not a transition. It's a moonwalk. It's an about face. It is, I'm going to first enact a public option within 100 days, which she makes seem like that's just some easy thing to do, that the public option is so easy. Yeah, snap my fingers, we're going to have a public option in 100 days, I believe she said. She's going to use some jujitsu of executive action and other things. And then as we transition and people get the benefits of the public option, then we're going to make the case for Medicare for All in my third year, after a potential Democratic Party loss in the midterms in 2022, and a year before she would be up for re-election. That's when she's going to fight for Medicare for All. Are we, cynical YouTubers here, supposed to believe that as Warren goes around with her big structural change, as Warren goes around talking about billionaire tiers, but delegates her top finance people in her campaign to, they didn't deny it, so we have to assume, according to the Political report, that they are paying for top wealthy donors to fly into certain events? Are we to assume that her softening, shall we say, in terms of positioning on Medicare for All in particular, has no relation to her, well, not her, but her donor, her top campaign staff, currying favor and basically behind the scenes kissing the ring of top Democratic Party donors? And for the devil's advocates out there that say, well, Jordan, Bernie Sanders didn't do this in 2016 and he lost. He didn't curry favor with the Democratic Party. He didn't sit and have hot tea with the Democratic Party's who's who. He didn't work hard enough to try and get Democratic Party establishment to sign on as superdelegates to him. He didn't play the game and he lost. Well, to that we say Bernie Sanders was enormously outspent by Hillary Clinton. Bernie Sanders had a skeleton crew as his staff for the most part. His staff this time around is much more expansive and much more staffed up than in 2016. And Bernie Sanders spent more time doing rallies, grassroots support, small dollar fundraisers. And he won 22 states. And he created a political revolution that many would argue established the conditions for someone like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to run and win, and other progressives to run and compete. And he was cheated, as folks in the super chat say. This is a super chat. Let us know. So, Elizabeth Warren is basically trying a magic trick. I'm pure. I don't waste time placating and kissing the ring of Democratic Party donors. I don't do big lavish fundraisers, although she did during her 2018 Senate re-election, and then she transferred those funds over into her presidential campaign. Elizabeth Warren says that, and it's true. It's just that basically she's just outsourcing it to her campaign staff to do it. And this is problematic. This is problematic for obvious reasons. First off, she's been on every single side of the fence when it comes to, will she take big money in the general election? First it was, I'm not going to unilaterally disarm. Then she said, I'm not going to take their money. Then she said, well, I'm not going to personally take their money, but I will fundraise with those same people for the DNC during the general election. And wait, who's the DNC going to be spending money for in the general election if Warren was the candidate? She's basically trying a lot of jujitsu, magic tricks. But the bottom line is, you are who you surround yourself with. And if your campaign run by a very, very wealthy man, Paul Eagerman, on the finance side, is flying in wealthy people, she ain't flying in me. She ain't flying in you. She's flying in wealthy folk to watch her on stage say she's taking on those wealthy folk. And I want to be clear. Not all wealthy people are terrible. Status Coup originally had a small investor, $50,000, right when we started, who's a great guy, a viewer, a progressive, wealthy. If you're watching, we love you. So not all wealthy people are bad. There are wealthy, capital P, progressives out there. But from the reporting, she's not going around trying to get Ben and Jerry's money, who are obviously Bernie supporters. She's trying to get money from the billionaire class. And that is troublesome. Because if she's doing this, all these tricks now, what is she going to do if she's elected president? Is she going to go around saying, I don't take the big money, but have her chief of staff do it? Is she going to say, I don't do lavish fundraisers, but have her treasury secretary do it, or her vice president do it? The only thing that happens, look at the cause and effect. Politico is reporting her top donors, her top campaign people are basically flying in wealthy people to events and playing liaison to these big wealthy people. And as that happens, she suddenly, it was I'm with Bernie, now it's we have a transition for Medicare for all. I'm going to give you a public option within the first 100 days. Triangulate and then some. Thank you, Mike. And by the way, thank you, Capera Schools. $5 in the super chat. Elizabeth Warren is a phony and a fraud. She doesn't actually support Medicare for all. She is faking it. And you know what? I heard somebody, maybe it was The Hill, Crystal and Sajer. I always mispronounce it. I think it's Sajer's show that said this, and I thought it was a great way of saying it. Thank you for the super chat. Her heart is clearly not into Medicare for all. Her heart is clearly, she might think, long-term universal health care is a good thing, but it's not what she wants. It's not her core issue. Her issue seems to be regulation, tighter regulation, the economy, those kinds of things. But that's not the top issue for the Democratic Party electorate. So why doesn't she just be honest and say, I believe in a more systematic approach to health care. I believe we need to start with a public option. We can't go crazy. But Sagar, thank you. I like him and I like Crystal a lot. I believe in a slower transition, but we got to get there and make her main focus Wall Street regulation or whatever. Even though, how are you going to talk about Wall Street regulation when you have your campaign basically kissing the ring and bending over for Wall Street? It makes no sense. And a lot of you don't like it when I say I don't think she's as bad as Trump. I don't think she's as bad as Biden. I don't think she's as bad as Buttigieg, who we just found videos of him going to speak at Tea Party rallies. Buttigieg. But this is not Elizabeth Warren, if elected, is 4 or 8 years of Barack Obama. It's the same exact thing, same old record, just a different time period. So we need to expose it. Good reporting by Politico. The Hill does need to get me on their panel. Let Crystal know. I did DM with Crystal last week to tell her about the story Jen and I are working on, so that when we break that, she knows, because we'd love to go on there and other places. So, definitely. We'll keep going at it. And I hope to be in New Hampshire covering Warren, Buttigieg very, very soon. And somebody asked, I already said something last week. I'll bring it up again. But somebody asked for my thoughts on my former boss, Jenks, running for Congress. And I did not say this to be rude or a jab or whatever. I said it because I really mean it. I think there's a difference between bias and objectivity. Although I have bias for Bernie Sanders and I support him, I don't lose my objectivity. As far as Cenk, I cannot cover his race objectively because there are things that I know about him that I'm not going to share publicly that, for me, I don't think he has the character to be a congressperson. But I also can't cover it because of that, because of the experiences I have and things I know that I just publicly am not able to talk about. It's not somebody. I think there are better progressives that could run and win in that district. So because of that, I don't think it's right for me to cover it because I just can't do it objectively. So that's what I have to say about that. So why am I in my kitchen? Go back to the beginning of the live stream. Jordan has the goods. You could say that. Anyway, 368 people watching, 270 likes. We need 100 more likes. Keep it coming. Keep it coming in the live stream. And remember, we are actively working to grow our membership. We are actively working to grow our membership. So sign up, statuscoup.com/join. If you become a member today, you will get the invite for our members only call. We do a video call every month on Thursday. So we look forward to having more members sign up so we could have more people in the video call. For members, you get a link. It's through Zoom. You'll get a link if you sign up as a member. You can become a member for as low as a cup of coffee a month. Membership is how we grow. Membership is how we sustain ourselves. So sign up today, statuscoup.com/join. Now I want to move on to Joe Biden because this New York Times story is vomit-inducing. And it's basically, hey, David, I became a member yesterday. Welcome, David. Thank you for signing up. This New York Times story is exactly why Joe Biden is leading, because the media has propagated this fact-free, easily disproven myth that Joe Biden is some average Joe, that Joe Biden is a friend of the working class of America, that Joe Biden is, understands your meat and potato issues. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but they are white and non-white alike, prefer Facebook over Twitter. If they are on social media at all, and can be hard to find at Democratic campaign events dominated by activists from the professional class. But these blue-collar voters could go a long way to determining who captures the Democratic presidential nomination, and Biden is racing to press his advantage with that constituency. When less than 3 months to go before voting begins in the 2020 primary, and on the eve of the fifth presidential primary debate, Mr. Biden faces significant challenges in the key early states of Iowa and New Hampshire, a cash crunch, and several Democrats threatening his standing with centrist voters. But his greatest compensating advantage right now is notably durable support from a multiracial coalition of working-class voters who feel a kinship with the former vice president and believe he is the Democrats' strongest general election prospect. At fundraisers and on campaign steps, Mr. Biden is warning his party against overlooking voters who were once a core Democratic constituency but had found some elements of Trump's message compelling. In 2016, his campaign believes the Democratic Party risked narrowing its electoral college path in 2020 and hurting its standing on Capitol Hill if candidates do not appeal directly to these moderate voters in battleground states in the Midwest and the Sun Belt. Where do I begin? Where do I begin? I don't even know where to start. First of all, they keep lying and they keep putting out these fact-free nonsense that these voters in the Midwest are moderate. If these voters in the Midwest were moderates, President Hillary Clinton would be a thing today. Hillary Clinton was offering these voters exactly what Biden is offering. Donald Trump was running, and I say this over and over because I covered his campaign. Donald Trump was proposing really, really progressive sounding legislation. Donald Trump was proposing ending the wars. Donald Trump was proposing taking it to Goldman Sachs. Donald Trump was proposing, I'm a Republican, this isn't a Republican thing to say, but we got to do universal health care. Everybody got to get covered. Everybody. So the truth is, these voters in the Midwest did not vote for Donald Trump because he was a more moderate choice than Hillary Clinton. They voted because they're done with moderates who are basically governing like Republicans. But Biden and the media keep perpetuating, you need a moderate. You need a moderate to win in the Midwest. That is proven by the results. That is proven by the election results. Another thing that is mind-numbing. Joe Biden, it shows you how much the media misinforms people. It shows you how bad the information out there is. Why, as independent media grows, corporate censors are trying to shut down independent media because they want to keep the masses dumb. Joe Biden is the exact opposite of a working class hero. Joe Biden, along with the corporate establishment of the Democratic Party since the 1980s, has been attacking the working class. Joe Biden and his cohorts are one of the reasons we barely have a middle class. Joe Biden has signed on to offshoring jobs to China and Mexico. Joe Biden has signed on to demolishing these same Midwest states that the New York Times is telling us, and the polls are showing, support him. You remember Thomas Frank wrote What's the Matter with Kansas many years ago, talking about Republican voters voting against their own interests? These same voters, these working class voters, according to the polls, a lot of them making less than $50,000 a year, a lot of them, also with only high school degrees, they are voting against their own interests, but they don't realize, because the media doesn't report it, that Joe Biden voted for NAFTA. Joe Biden, as of 2016, was pushing TPP. Joe Biden was one of the biggest reasons for the Patriot Act, which was just rammed through again the other day. An extension of the Patriot Act. Joe Biden, Iraq War, was the foreign committee's chair during that time and helped push the Iraq War. He didn't just vote for it, he helped push it. Joe Biden pushed the bankruptcy bill for credit card companies. Joe Biden was behind the repeal of Glass-Steagall, but none of these reporters writing this are asking voters in the Midwest, what do you think of Joe Biden and his record that is very opposite of working class hero? Because I promise you, because I've experienced this on the road over and over again, you would, by asking these voters, what do you think of that? Most of them would be, well, I didn't know that. I didn't know that he voted for NAFTA. Oh, he was a proponent of the TPP? Oh, oh. Oh, wait. He pushed the Iraq War? Oh, wait. He was for the bankruptcy bill? Oh, wait. Patriot Act? Glass-Steagall? Deregulating derivatives? I mean, I could go on. The voter ignorance, the voter misinformation is astounding. And by the way, I see the comments in the super chat. If people want to spear me, put your name to it, and you go on with your smears. Let us know. Let us know what I've done. It's unbelievable. You have these anonymous accounts that put out this nonsense. And they keep wanting to smear me years later. But they don't have the courage to actually put their names to it. They hide behind fake accounts. So, I'm not going to get so worked up about it. Not going to get so worked up about it. But the reason also that I think you continue to have the DNC allowing 10 candidates on the stage is because they want Joe Biden to have as little time as possible to talk. They want Joe Biden to have as little time as possible to be attacked. They want Joe Biden, they want Bernie Sanders to have as little time as possible to go after Joe Biden. We saw in the last debate, Bernie Sanders finally went against Biden on TPP. Let's hope he goes after him on bankruptcy bill and other things this time. Joe Biden is not a working class hero. And the reason it is so dangerous for him to be propped up as such, Donald Trump, if he's not impeached, well, he's probably going to be impeached before then, but if he's not removed by the Senate, which I don't think is going to happen, judging by the Republicans during these hearings, basically bending over backwards and twisting themselves into embarrassing pretzels for Trump, Trump is going to annihilate Biden on all of the things I'm mentioning, because Trump still is convincing these voters. Particularly when you look at the 10% of Obama voters that switched to Trump. Trump somehow, through his marketing and basically sales brilliance, got to give it to the man, is able to present himself as draining the swamp, able to present himself as, protecting the worker bees, of bringing back jobs. And he is going to go after Joe Biden with everything he's got on TPP, on NAFTA, on the bankruptcy bill, on all these things. On the fact that he's going around the country having caviar and champagne all over the country. Big dollar funders. Joe Biden is not a contrast to Donald Trump. Joe Biden is a less racist, less hyperbolic, less Islamophobic, less evil spin-off. He's the country club version of Donald Trump. There's not so much that separates Joe Biden with someone like Paul Ryan. It is disgusting. And honestly, I really, really hope that it is exposed before it's too late. Because I'm saying this in the interest of somebody who wants to take out Donald Trump. So we'll see. We shall see. Moving on. And remember, folks, it's a super chat. Keep it coming. Let's see. Have we gotten any members since I've been live? Hope I'm Hope I have some good news for you. Okay, no members yet. I'll hold out hope. How many do we got? We got 12 people watching on Twitch, growing on Twitch. Remember to follow us on Twitch, trying to grow there. Colin, I believe, is going to be operating our Twitch, so we could grow that there, because we don't want to be too focused on YouTube. I found something the New York Times editor said laughable. The New York Times editor spoke with The Guardian. He said the usual. Donald Trump has put his reporters' lives at risk, which is absolutely true. 100%. I agree with him on that. But he said something interesting that I'd like to get your opinion on. Apparently, the New York Times editor, Dean Backat, said he warned junior staff and readers against pushing to embrace left-wing Democratic candidates such as Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders, saying the outlet would lose its status if it openly sided with particular politicians. Quote, "They probably want a more political New York Times than I'm willing to give them. I hope they will learn over time that a New York Times that plays it straight has much more power and more longevity. Plays it straight," the New York Times editor says. Thank you, Kelly Elaine. $2 in the super chat. So basically, the New York Times editor is talking to The Guardian and saying, I tell our younger writers who are probably more progressive, probably have higher student debt, probably actually have a little bit more connection. Andy P, text notifications are working yet. We're not sending it out for every live stream. We're trying it for certain. We're trying it for certain ones. Web Angel 200. Hi Jordan. What have you done with Ty? What have I done with Ty? What do you mean? What am I, a diabolical? Am I a diabolical monster that put Ty in a machine? What do you mean? What have I done with Ty? I don't really get the question. Carl Knight. It's not cool that you're keeping your parents from eating dinner. Haha. Can't wait till Status Coup breaks the news story. Keep it up. My parents are still at work, so I'm not stopping them from eating dinner. But the New York Times, they're playing it straight with stories like Mayor and Foreign Minister, how Bernie Sanders brought the Cold War to Burlington. Remember this one? He brought the Cold War to Burlington. That's going to scare your older readers. Bernie Sanders, I did my best to stop American forest policy. Bernie Sanders on the 1980s. You remember this gem where the reporter could not focus, could not stop asking him, wait, Bernie, did you hear when you went to a rally in Nicaragua? Did you hear chants of anti-American sentiment? And if you heard it, what did you do to stop it? Andy, don't worry, you'll get a text. We're going to send out a text definitely before our members call Thursday. And we'll probably send out a text for tomorrow too. The New York Times has been nothing but destructive. The New York Times has been nothing but biased. The amount of puff pieces they've done on Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, Amy Klobuchar. The coverage has been slightly better, more critical as of late on Elizabeth Warren. Took a while. Certainly took a while. So, I just find it funny because as we talk about the corporate suppression that goes on, particularly on places like YouTube, as we talk about, Google and what they do in terms of deranking alternative sites, you openly have the editor of the New York Times who is either incredibly unself-aware or just lying when he says, we got to keep it straight. He knows they're not straight. He knows they prop up. The Joe Biden, have been propping up Warren, propping up Pete Buttigieg. He knows. You think those stories trying to paint Bernie Sanders as like being a Russian, a Cold War Soviet? You think those stories that try to paint Bernie Sanders as being anti-American or reveling at foreign events when there are anti-American cheers, you think those don't get run through the editor-in-chief? Come on. Princess Power Puff, CA, $6.99. Any thoughts on Sweden dropping charges against Assange? Yes, I actually was going to mention that at the end. Julian Assange, Sweden, which had filed the rape case against Julian Assange years ago, finally dropped it today. My thoughts? Listen, I am sensitive to this topic, obviously, for obvious reasons. I don't think they ever had an actual case against Julian Assange. I think that keeping this case alive, even though they never had a case to begin with, was used as a character assault against Julian Assange. I don't know Julian Assange that way, obviously, and if he ever assaulted a woman, I would think much differently about Julian Assange. But there was never, ever evidence that he did that. So Sweden dropping the charges, obviously you can't keep charges forever and ever if there's no evidence. And the charges, although I think they said, although one of the woman's stories was credible, there was not enough supporting evidence. Okay, well, then Julian Assange, it should be focused on the undemocratic, barbaric torture that he's going through, and essentially, I think, a crime that's being perpetrated against him. He had legal asylum, and laws were broken where he had asylum from Ecuador. Laws were broken to take him out of that embassy. His term in the jail that he was in Belfast ended in September, and the judge arbitrarily kept him there instead of allowing him to leave on bail months ahead of his extradition hearing. And his extradition hearing, I mean, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I'm not going to lie to you. It's going to be a dog and pony show. I think there is a very small chance of him not being extradited to the United States. It would take massive global protest, and I don't even know if that would do it. So overall, I think it's a good thing that the charges were dropped. Again, if there were evidence that came out that he actually did those things, I would feel a lot differently, but I've never seen any evidence of that. And I think Julian Assange, I don't agree with everything he's done. I don't agree with all his methods, but I think Julian Assange, it is unquestionable, is a hero, is a journalistic hero, has won multiple awards, and has taken more risks than any of these slimy New York Times people I'm talking about have ever done. That's what I think. Web Angel, I don't know what that currency is. 500. Why? Easy Jordan, I said it was in jest. I know he was living with you now, so that you've moved out. I was just wondering where he was. Oh, okay. Yeah, he's somewhere else with a friend. So he's not on the streets. He's with a friend. Michael, no hat in the Status Coup store. That is a good idea. Jen and I are talking about that. For some reason, and by the way, good promo, we do have a Status Coup store, hint, hint, statuscoup.com/store. Get your winter hoodie, your Status Coup gear for the winter. Get your long sleeve shirts for the winter. For those of you that live in warmer climates, you can get your short sleeve shirts, your beach gear, all that at statuscoup.com/store. But we are working on making hats available too. So thank you for that. Thank you for that. And for those that are asking, if you came in late, I'm in my parents' kitchen because I'm going to be staying here for the next 2 months before I move in with my lady, trying to save some money. I put in a lot of my money to Status Coup, so I got to kind of save up and recoup some of that money I saved. So not paying rent at my old apartment is helpful. So I'll be here for a little while. On Thursday, I have a tech person coming to help me put up my green screen, help me with the lighting and everything, so I will not be live from the kitchen in a very poor lit kitchen for the next 2 months. I will make a mini studio here, and everything will be dandy. So, if Assange gets extradited to the U.S., he will receive the Epstein treatment. I actually disagree with you. I think the military-industrial complex wants him to suffer for as long as humanly possible. I think they're basically going to put him in solitary confinement, and they're not going to suicide him. They are going to put him in a hole for the next, I think he's 48, 40 or 50 years left he has. God willing. Not God willing that they do that, but that he lives longer. So Jordan is literally living in his mom's basement. Well, when you put it that way, Kelly. You know what? Sometimes revolution starts in the basement, Kelly. Keel. I'm not living in my mother's basement, and I have to save money. What do you want from me? I am not funded, and Status Coup is not funded by certain massive Democratic Party donors or Republican Party donors. We are not funded by George Soros. We are not funded by Saudi princes. We are funded by you. StatusCout.com/join. But, as humbly as I could say, we're not where we are. And because I'm the CEO of Status Coup, please make a Status Coup hoodie. It's in the store. Go to StatusCout.com/store. It's already there. Let me find StatusCout.com. Let me find StatusCout.com and take you to the store so you could see. Store. Jordan, thoughts on the next debate? I will be giving you my thoughts because I'm going to be going live twice tomorrow. Where's the hoodie? Here's the hoodie. Yes. Go to StatusCout.com and click on store. It'll take you to our store, and you could purchase your hoodie in time for the winter. Jen's not here, but I definitely need a hoodie, so I'm going to ask her to help me out. So, $44. Not, we don't set the prices. The site we do it does, but $44, not cheap, but I don't have anything to do with the price, so it'll keep you warm and keep you badass. That's StatusCout.com/store. I want that hoodie. I want that hoodie. And all you got to do, go to StatusCout.com and click on store. Right there. And it will redirect you to our store. So, Status Coup is not definitely funded by Wall Street, Goldman Sachs, or Super PAC. Correct. And we are doing it the old-fashioned way, through you. StatusCout.com/join. StatusCout.com/join. And before I end today, I have one more public service announcement. Not going to get into anything with details or anything like that, but we are also, we are looking for a new camera person / editor. So, if you live in the New York area, and you have a strong resume, that would be editing experience, camera experience. You could operate a live view. You know politics pretty well. You might be interested in doing some on-air work. You don't have to be a progressive, but you know about progressive politics. Email your resume and cover letter, and I actually read the cover letters to info@statuscoup. info@statuscoup. We definitely need your information. That's all I could say. We're looking for a new camera person. And honestly, I think this is a really exciting time because Iowa and New Hampshire are right in front of us. And I remember when I started at the Young Turks. I started at the Young Turks in December 2015. So it's basically around this time. And it was really all systems going from there. So we definitely want to be in the field. We don't think it's going to take that long to find someone. Jen and I are already reaching out to some people we have resumes for. But definitely editing experience. Definitely somebody who already knows live view or can learn it very quickly. Definitely someone who has some interest in being on air. And definitely somebody who is down with the cause. We want somebody down with the cause. So, Katzenberg funding, not for us. No, thank you. Not an option. So, with that, did I have anything else? No, that was it. So I'll be live tomorrow, probably at give or take noon or 1 o'clock to go into the debate, talk about the debate, preview the debate, and then after the debate, if I can, it might be a little late, but I'm going to try to go live after the debate so we can do a little recap. Wake up Mama and Daddy Sheridan at 11:30 at night. My thoughts on this debate is it's lights out time. It's louts eye time after this. It is lights out time after this. For Kamala Harris, Cory Booker, Amy Klobuchar. I hope this debate puts them to bed. Add in Tom Steyer too. And that's all. And by the way, listen, I'm a transparent guy. Jen is transparent. But there's certain things we just can't talk about, you know. And part of that is, you know, sometimes when people come or go, there's just details we just can't actually provide. So I hope you understand that. We are looking for a new camera person, but I can't really get into details about it. But I will say we're excited. We're ready to go. Finishing the GoFundMe. We now have a little bit more of a runway to travel and cover the campaign. So as soon as we get somebody, I'm ready. We could start going to New Hampshire more because Buttigieg, Biden, Warren, Bernie obviously are there, and we're ready to go. So I hope you don't think that I'm trying to hide things from you, but in a business, there's some things you really just can't talk about. So hope it makes sense. I will talk to you tomorrow. Thank you for watching. This has been Jordan, live from my parents' kitchen. Peace out.